Well, today we have new polling data to share with you, 1 month ahead of our state's primary election, specifically when it comes to the job approval of Governor Jay Inslee and President Joe Biden. So the first question asked is, how is the president doing among Washington voters? Nationally, his approval rating is in near record low territory. Here in Washington state, a traditionally blue state, over time, President Biden is seeing waning support as well. You can see a strong bump right after the inauguration. The vaccine rollout began, and Americans started to make progress in the fight against COVID-19. However, his numbers drop as the economy begins to sink. 825 Washington adults surveyed, and President Biden's approval rating sits right at about 43% this morning in Washington state, about 7 points higher than his national approval rating. All right, what about Governor Jay Inslee? Over the past 2 years, he's really been taking on water. The governor's approval rating appears to sink from a very high 60% as the state began to beat back COVID, but it's been all downhill from there, but leveling off in recent months to a 47% approval rating. Today, that's according to our poll. That's a 4% higher approval rating, percentage point higher approval rating than the president. All right, for context, we check in with Gary Locke, who is a former governor, U.S. Commerce Secretary, and U.S. Ambassador to China, and Scott McClellan, who served as White House Press Secretary during George W. Bush's first administration. McClellan had this to say about the governor's approval rating.
Well, I think some of that's impacted by the national mood of voters, right, and Joe Biden's approval ratings. It's also, and I think we've seen over time that Inslee's approval numbers, particularly among independents, has not been strong.
Well, these are tough times for families. I think there's COVID fatigue. There's concern about crime, homelessness, obviously rising prices. And people want leadership.
So that polling comes from our sister station in Seattle, King 5 News, the Seattle Times, the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, and WSU's Murrow College of Communication.